Welcome to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast, where we discuss the key aspects of emotional intelligence and ways to apply it in everyday living. Now let's work together to make common sense more common. Hi, welcome back to the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. Today we are going to talk about not letting go of control. And it's funny because I think it's easy for us to spot a micromanager in others, but ends up being really hard to see it in ourselves. And it ends up being a leadership constraint. It ends up being a challenge, and maybe not just even in leadership, but in life. When we're trying to control everything, things usually don't turn out the way we think they're going to. And I was really reminded of this when I was working with a client one time, and I was out on site with them. I was coaching and visiting their office, and they had a staff meeting. The person was the CEO that I was working with, and it was a big staff meeting. It was all the direct reports. So I think there were 8 or 9 of us around the table. They're going through all the standard stuff you go through for a business review. And at some point I noticed there's a bunch of kind of cell phone texting back and forth, looking at each other. And I could see something was up. And finally, the CEO could see it too. And he said, can I stop right now and find out what's going on here? Because I feel like everyone's suddenly distracted. And it turned out they were sort of a mid-level tech supplier. And one of their biggest customers had just messaged everybody saying, we have an outage. And of course, that's never a good thing when your customer has an outage. But on top of it, they were saying the reason we have the outage is because you guys didn't pay your bill. So even more panic. So the CFO is sitting there at the table with us, and she explains what happened and the fact that there's an outage until payment is made. And the CEO completely lost his mind. It was one of the few times I have seen such a loud outburst. And he is screaming at the top of his lungs, dropping swear words. I can't believe how inept this team is to let something like this happen. And he's obviously embarrassed, right? So this is not good. I understood his frustration and anger, but he is just finger pointing, yelling, and the CFO is just sitting there taking it. And she very calmly, when he's done with his rant, says, well, I have the check approval sitting on your desk for the payment, and it's been there for a couple of weeks, but you wanted to sign everything yourself. And so between your travel schedule and your meeting schedule, I think that's why it got hung up. And all of us were just like, oh, great, right? Right back to the CEO. And he obviously didn't take that news very well either, and tried to figure out why he was justified in needing to sign every single thing and review every single thing. But afterward, we did a little, the sidebar, the 3 of us, after the meeting ended. And I tried to really help him understand, you are the bottleneck now. When you want to approve every single thing that happens, these are some of the downside implications of that. And I think it's easy to happen. It's easy because we get caught up believing that either nothing can get done well if we're not involved, or they don't know enough about it, or as much as we do about it. We might have concern that misconduct could put us at risk or create a scandal, so we want to kind of control things. There's fear of being irrelevant. If I'm not here doing this, what am I going to do? And sometimes it's just a failure to learn executive leadership skills, which require a lot of delegation and trust in fairness. Or it's just a desire to be seen as hardworking, like I can do it myself. I'm not too good to do this menial task, whatever it is. These are all valid. These are all valid reasons why we want to stay in control. But, there's some serious downside to it too. So if we look at emotional intelligence, or EQ, it's when we go back to those 3 R's. So the first R, recognizing ourselves. then reading others or reading the situation at hand and responding appropriately. That is what will kind of be our guide. And so when we're coaching someone who has a tendency to want to over control or micromanage, one of the things on the recognizing side we say is, notice when your instinct is to take over. Notice when your instinct is, I'll do it myself, when you've maybe got a high independent streak on something. So first of all, just recognize, this is something I'm wanting to do, and then sort of reflect, why? What's behind this? Is it just old habit? Is it something I've always done? And so I've just gone into assumption mode that it's my job. And then how do I read the situation? Is this something that this person can logically handle on their own? Is this something that I could at least delegate part of if you're not willing to give up the whole thing? And then respond appropriately. And so being able to delegate and trust someone else without needing to be completely involved would be the first step toward letting go. But you can imagine this becomes a growth hindrance. I'm limited by the number of hours I have in my day when I'm needing to control everything that goes through, or I'm the quality control inspector of everything that might go out of our department. It can create a lot of self-imposed, unnecessary pressure. So trust ends up being a big part of this. And one of my favorite resources on trust is a book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey. If you're interested, it's a great read. And he really breaks down trust into 4 categories. So if you're sensing as you're reflecting on why you're hesitant to want to delegate or give up control on something, if it's a trust issue, maybe look at these 4 factors and decide which one of these is at issue and how do I then help overcome that. The first one is integrity. We question someone's integrity or honesty about truthfulness. And so if it's an integrity issue, then maybe they're not even someone you want on your team, right? That might even be a red flag there. Hopefully there's integrity behind it. They're earnestly wanting to do a good job. The second one is intent. Do they plan to meet the expectation? Do they plan to meet the deadline? Good intent, real big. So assess, is this person well-intended? Number 3 is their capability. And this is where I think a lot of leaders struggle sometimes, or anybody who's wanting to kind of control something is, well, they're not able to do that. That's why I have to. Or it's maybe what we tell ourselves. But if you think about you, when you were early in your life or early in your career, you didn't have a bunch of capability either, but at some point someone just trusted you to do stuff. I always think of it like as a parent, right? As a new parent. Somehow I just got thrown into this parenting thing without a lot of skill or background or anything. Just figure it out as you go. Same thing. You'll have a job that you might have with new skills, new tasks that you've never done before that now it's on you to figure out on your feet. Give them the same opportunities, right? Even though you didn't feel ready, they may not feel ready, doesn't mean it won't go well. And then results. Are they able to get the results you're looking for? And as people support those 4 areas, that's where trust comes from. So we have to role model those things. If I'm in a leadership role, a family leadership, a business leadership, a company leadership role, I have to role model those and then hopefully encourage those in others. I think the other thing that can happen when we don't let go of control is what we call the competency dilemma. There's an article on my LinkedIn page if you're interested in what this is. But essentially what happens is I end up being good at a lot of things, and then I just take that on, and then pretty soon I've got more, and pretty soon, that old saying, if you want something done, give it to the busiest person you know. Now all of a sudden, everything is landing on my plate because I do well, and I say yes a lot. But at some point, the boundaries really start to get blurred. I might end up getting overworked. I might end up getting overwhelmed, and now I've got burnout. So we don't want to find ourselves in that situation. And that's where these boundaries really come in, and the commitment to letting other people help us. And I know that's challenging to want to admit, maybe. is the kind of the fear of either mistakes or admitting I need help right now. But try to avoid doing the wrong thing well in order to do the right thing poorly. The goal here is that I'm working with my team and the people around me to do the best job, but also expand the skill level so that it goes beyond me and my capabilities, and through that, delegation. So in a nutshell, some things to think about to avoid this trap of not letting go of control. See if there's ways that you can stay informed without being involved. That usually calms that tendency to want to micromanage, because at least I know what's going on. So being a proactive communicator around that, asking questions, asking for status updates can help. 2, I think helping to assume others' best intent. Their results might not be perfect the first go round. There may be gaps in capabilities, but if their intent and integrity are in the right place, stick with it. Keep giving them things to do and learn and grow with. And then lastly, be willing to ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign that you are believing in someone else and that you're encouraging growth within the organization or within the task. And you never know. They might surprise you. They might come up with a different way of doing it than you ever thought that would work. And it turns out sometimes it can. So this is also where innovation might come from. So hopefully you've learned a few tips here today on how to avoid the not letting go of control trap. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us today on the Ego versus EQ and You podcast. If you liked this episode, be sure to follow us or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please share our show with others. For questions or future topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@jenshirkani.com. Until next time, keep using your EQ and show ego who's boss.